Okay, I'm back. Hello, did you miss me?
Yes. Here's something I'm doing ahead of time, so I don't. Also, either of us don't forget to mention any broadcasts. So, I'm typing out in the other Race 2 chat upcoming broadcast, so we can list those off at the end.
Okay, I like it.
Yeah, also that's a good point for Josh. Like, if we are on the Constantly 2, so the communication channel will be in the race chat too, that you now also have access to, so you can see.
1 minute left. I'm going to grab a printout real quick.
Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
Hello everybody and welcome to round 4 of the Radical Racing Challenge here on Apex Racing TV. We're at Oulton Park today, personally one of my favorite tracks from the UK. It's a very technical track for sure, definitely different from our last race of the season at the Noorderschleife, very small track here. Not a lot of long straightaways to work with, so that'll be interesting to see how that comes into effect, even with the powerful slipstream that we have in these cars. I'm Ron Mullins, your lead commentator for tonight, and joining me in the commentary booth is JR Gregory with Joshua Wilkie in the production hauler. Now, JR, I think this is going to be an interesting race on our hands. We have seen how much of an effect the slipstream plays into an effect in these races, but at a track like this where the straightaways aren't too long, I think that could maybe limit the amount of overtaking we'll see today. What do you think?
That is interesting, Ron, and I think we're in for definitely a treat today. To not to sound too much like a broken record, but these cars are high on power, high on mechanical grip, no TC, no ABS, and today at Oulton Park, no chicanes to slow the cars down. As this track has matured over the years, they've thrown in a couple of chicanes between Shell and Druids, and those are gone. So really that is going to function as a pretty significant straightaway going into a very, very difficult Druids bend at the end of that. And I don't want to lay too much of a commentator's jinx here right out of the box, but my feeling is that our virtual flatbed operators are going to have their hands full today.
I'm tending to agree with you, honestly. I mean, this track, very tight. You don't have a lot of room to go off if you do make a mistake. And I think even if we were running on the layout with the 2 chicanes, as you just saw Kane Halliburton go through that very long, flat-out run with the 2 chicanes that he did not go through, even if we had the chicanes, I think we would still have a decent amount of accidents. I mean, no disrespect to these drivers. They have put on some fantastic and very clean racing so far this season, but with the tight nature of the series, with how close it is, as you can clearly see on the live timing right now, only 6 thousandths of a second currently separating Kane Halliburton, who we're riding on board with now, and Bjorklund, who's currently in second. This series is always very close. And we see Kane Halliburton actually dip into the 119s there. That's a very good lap from him. But with how close the series is, I think we're going to see a lot of very hard racing, but I think it will lead to some accidents tonight with how close quarters this kind of track is. I think it's going to be very fun to watch. Personally, I always have a lot of fun driving on this track. I know this track and the IR18 in iRacing is always one of my favorite combinations just in sim racing, period. So this is going to be a very fun race to watch tonight.
Yeah, it absolutely is, and I'd encourage our viewers to keep a close eye on Druids Bend. Of course, we're in the UK, so you know that you're going to have a lot of interesting historic names of corners instead of numbers, but Druids is at the end of that long straight. And the interesting thing about that one is you can't overslow there. It's an important corner, so you're going to be brushing the brakes and turning into an apex that you can't see and an exit that you can't see. And as we pointed out, and we're seeing Dennis here approaching the corner that I'm talking about, there is a drafting opportunity here, so we may see cars going into this extremely difficult bend. You see a little off-camber action there too, side by side, and it's really going to be a gut check for the driver defending and the driver on the attack. It's going to be an interesting race.
Yeah, it's definitely going to take big cojones to try and go for an overtake there. It's very tight. You got that uphill section right at exiting the corner, and as we've seen with this car, sometimes a bit of adverse yaw with the weight shift in these cars can play really cataclysmically wrong for some of these drivers. So we're following Dennis now. He sets a pretty mid-pack time, I would say. Not too many drivers qualifying. We've only seen 13 drivers set a qualifying time so far, but still pretty close field, all things considered. Especially up at the front, we saw the 6,000ths gap between Halliburton and Bjorklund earlier. That's now extended to about 3.5 tenths of a second, but still, 3.5 tenths of a second. Maybe it's just me. I watched Formula One way too much as a kid, so I'm used to like second-long gaps or something like that. But still, very close, all things considered. I think it's gonna be a fantastic race. We've seen some fantastic races so far this year, a lot of great battles. We've seen some very big clusters of cars too. Flashback to Spa round 2 of the season when we had, I think it was like a 6 or 7 car pack throughout most of that race from about 4th to 10th. So that was some very fantastic racing as qualifying has wrapped up here for tonight's race. And it is Kane Halliburton, as he has been for most of the races this year. He is on the pole position tonight. He missed out on the Nürburgring. I'm not sure what happened to him last week, but he will race tonight, and he is starting from the best spot of them all, pole position at a 119, the only driver into the 119s in this field. Very spectacular qualifying time from him. We have Bjorklund in second, Blanco in third, Gonzaga in fourth, Woodward in fifth, Andreas Frederick in sixth. We have Dennis Karakopoulos in 7th. We have Abdul Alamari in 8th. We have James Barry in 9th. We have Samir. My microphone is getting in the way of my vision here. Samir Kamadora in 10th. We have Diego Zuccarelli in 11th. We have Oscar Martin in 12th. Sampierres in 13th. We have Varank in 14th, Ibram in 15th. A lot of drivers did not set a qualifying time. For what reason, we do not know. Christopher Yankas was one of those. He will be starting from 16th. We have Dixon in 17th, Haugen 18th, Christensen in 19th, and Alberto Merchant, I believe, rounding out your field in 20th. So 20-car field at this very tight, very twisty, but also very fun track. It's going to be a very interesting race on our hands. We only have a few more drivers waiting to get onto this grid, and that's going to be the 5 lights are going to go on, and then we're going to send the field on their way to a very interesting run up onto turn 1. We might see some overtakes there. We'll just have to wait and see. We're going to see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lights. The 5 lights are going to be on, and the driver's going to be on their way. Looks like a fantastic start there. I'm not sure where that driver was. That's the number 7 there. Ooh, there's Kane Halliburton. He takes the lead. He manages the lead. Still very good start from him. That was Gonzaga, who had the fantastic start and manages to get into 3rd, I believe, right now. He is battling with, I believe that's Robert Woodward. For position there. No, that's actually Frederick. They're battling for the last podium spot already. So we see some drivers shuffling towards the back, but it's Kane Halliburton at the front of the field right now.
And a big jump by Friedrich. Looks like he's up 3. And Rafael Blanco, we've learned over the first couple races of the series to keep an eye on him. He's always ready to tangle up around the podium position and has already jumped up to P2 as he's hounding Halliburton on the approach to Druids.
pretty even keel start for most of the front runners. You know, we saw Blanco make up a couple spots. Halliburton had a pretty solid start. We'll expect him to run at the front throughout most of this field, but Blanco is definitely not, he's definitely not a pushover in this series. We've seen him, he's always been very competitive. He's shown a lot of speed. He's also been a bit fiery at times. We've seen some mistakes from him. We've seen him get involved in some incidents from time to time, but he's managed to even out those mistakes. He's put together some very decent races and some very memorable moments so far this season. So if he can battle with Halliburton and maybe even take the win tonight, that'll definitely be a memorable moment from this year. So Kane Halliburton leads lap 1. He sets the other fastest lap, of course, as he would, because we've only gotten 1 lap so far in this race. Pretty even keel start and pretty clean start so far. We haven't seen too many incidents. Right now there's only one driver in the pit lane. That is Merchant in 20th. I believe he was our last place starter, so he did not take the grid. Or as I say that, I believe that was Ibram, who is now off the track, so a tough break from him. We'll have to, not sure what happened to him there. We might get a replay there, but there is, looks like Alamari looking for a move there. It looks like he is going to try and get the move done on Bjorklund. That is a very textbook overtake there. But actually does not get done. My apologies. My screen keeps blanking out for whatever reason. I do not know why. But right now we see Alamari under attack now from Barry in 9th. This is a battle between 7th, 8th, and 9th there. This is going to be very close between these drivers going into Druids. My screen keeps blanking for some inexplicable reason. But right now it looked like a 2-car battle. It's becoming a 3-car battle. It might become a 4-car battle here soon.
Wow, and we saw that approach to Druids. Saw a couple of cars side by side until the very last minute. They thought better of it, went through it in single file. But as the race wears on, I'm not going to be surprised at all to see them test fitting 2 radicals through that very difficult off-camber corner at the end of the back straight.
Yeah, that's an interesting one to go side by side. I know in some of the, I won't call them human rights violations I've done against the iRacing AI in this game. I've definitely gone for some very opportunistic moves going into that turn, and it's usually ended in total disaster. But these drivers race very clean, but they will race you hard, and they try and claw for every position they can. So we're following Gonzaga in 4th. He was up in the podium position, but he did get overtaken by Andreas Frederick on lap 1. So right now it is Frederick rounding out your podium right now. That consists of Rafael Blanco in 2nd and Kane Halliburton in 1st. Pulling up a little bit, he is now at a 1.2, nearly 1.3 second gap between your 1st and 2nd place runners right now. So it looks like it's now going to be a battle between Rafael Blanco and Andreas Frederick for 2nd and 3rd. That'll be a very interesting battle to watch. Frederick, we haven't seen too much of him so far this season. You know, he's been fast at times, but there's no real big moments that stand out in my mind from him so far this season. We saw some great drives from him last year. Of course, the car handle's completely different from this year compared to last, but still, I think he might be threatening Blanco soon enough in this race. These drivers are pretty even keel in pace. We'll get to see their lap times here. Yeah, only 0.3 of a second between them, as Frederick is actually, I believe, the second fastest car on track, only a couple hundredths of a second away from Kane Halliburton, who is just setting fastest lap after fastest lap. It looks like he's soon going to match his qualifying speed in a couple laps. We're seeing some cars battling up front. We're seeing some cars battling all through the field. This is absolutely awesome, as you'd expect from this series.
And Halliburton lighting the wick here. It looked very briefly at the beginning as if Blanco was going to be able to hang with him, and Halliburton does not want any part of that. He is lighting the wick and driving away. He's already gapped up to almost 2 seconds in the initial just over 3 laps. So he's likely to drive away, as we have seen him do time and again here. And Friedrich is definitely putting down some laps, and Blanco is going to be under threat in the very near future here. And who are we looking at? Al Amre still.
3 wide.
3 wide now. And a little lawn mowing there by Barry gets the worst of that encounter.
That was elbows out there. That I nearly crap my pants there just seeing those drivers go 3 wide there. This isn't really a track where you see 3 wide action, especially at that part of the track, but they managed to get through without a total disaster. I say that Barry did go off the track, did a little bit of lawn mowing there, but he still manages to keep it on the road. He's currently running in the 11th position, so if he catches up to some of these drivers, he might want to get, well, I won't say retribution, but he'll definitely try and put a hurting on them after after them shoving him off the road. So right now we're seeing that's Cadora on the inside there, going through that corner there. These drivers are very close, and he manages to hold off on the position. This is a very tight battle we have here. Looks like things up towards the front are actually spreading out a little bit, so this is really the key battle on track at the moment right now. I said at first it was a 2-car battle, that became 3. It's coming up to 5 or 6 at this point. So once again, we're seeing these like little pelotons throughout this field, and it's producing some very interesting racing.
Yeah, and Bjorklund looking very racy there. He's got that gap down to 0.3. He'll definitely have a run here coming down into Druids, and what is he going to do with it? Looks like he's going to wait till the next lap, hang in line, and see what develops. And we have another car going wide there. You can pick up a couple of slowdowns on this track, and I think that's one of the places, so we may see that car falling off pace to make that time penalty up.
Ooh, he might be falling off the track there. That was very close for Alamari. 2 corners in a row. He looked like, well, he was flirting with the grass that one time, and then he was actually on the grass there. Right now, Barry is looking to get the move done on Alamari there. He is still involved in that battle, even though there was the small little incident we saw him involved in last lap, but he manages to get the position on Alamari as we start lap 6 here. We're not even halfway through this race, and we've already seen a decent amount of action so far. This is some very, very fantastic racing from this series. As you'd expect, right now we have a 3-car battle here, and then we have 4 cars farther up the road.
Yeah, absolutely, and great move there by Barry going into Old Hall. I love these corner names, but very tough spot. You're under braking going downhill at the apex of the corner as at a rise, and you have to be judicious with the throttle there as the track falls away, accelerating out of that corner. Very tough spot, and Barry making it look easy on the inside move.
$5 Monopoly currency. That's the first time the word judicious has been used in a Apex Racing TV broadcast. So nice pulling out the thesaurus there, JR. So right now, this is a very interesting battle. There's another very interesting battle farther up the road for some higher positions right now. But we've got 2 3-car packs here. And these drivers, they're not extremely close. I say that. It looks like those 2 drivers are going side by side. That was Alamari. Now we switch up to the battle at the front. I said it was spreading out earlier. Now they're actually closing in. There's a battle between Blanco and Frederick for P2. Right now, Kane Halliburton is really driving off into the distance. He actually, I believe, the time he just set was just a tad faster than his qualifying time, his pole position time in the race proper. So we've seen a pretty big smackdown from Kane Halliburton, as we really expect whenever we see him in the entry list. But right now he's pulling away, and right now this is very close between these 2 drivers. Blanco might be at threat here. We're not even halfway through this race. We still have about 11 laps to go. Well, more 10 and a half at this point, but still, I think Blanco has a lot. Frederick has a lot of time. Frederick has a lot of, definitely has a lot of opportunities to try and get past. I think right now, if you're Blanco, you really just want to hit your marks and kind of maybe start weaving a little bit, because we see as Frederick closes in quite a lot on the back of Blanco how powerful the slipstream plays an effect into these races. So I think we might see some very strong defensive maneuvers from those drivers. If you're Blanco, how do you hold on to this position, JR?
You know, that is a good question. Certainly Blanco right now is spending a lot of time driving in his mirrors. Halliburton is gone at this point, so what's on his mind right now is keeping Friedrich from getting by him. And so far, you know, you would kind of expect Friedrich to try to get in Blanco's head a little bit, show his nose on the inside on some of these corner entries. Friedrich really isn't doing that. He's giving the signal that he's satisfied going in single file for the time being, will race now and fight later is probably the way he's looking at this.
I think right now both of these drivers just need to keep it on the road, wait for the laps to tick by, because if they start battling too much, if we see a really wheels-to-wheels, elbows-out battle between Blanco and Friedrich at this stage in the race, we might see Gonzaga or even Woodward get involved in this battle here, because we've seen how heavy battling can really just drop you like you're carrying a parachute around this track. So we might see those 2 drivers just stay in line for the time being, trying to play the long-term game, just say, hey, look, we're not even halfway through this race. Let's just stay in a bit of a peloton here, just keep the laps down, and probably with 4 to go, they'll probably start to get their elbows out. But this is an elbows out battle that we see right now just towards the tail end of the top 10. We have Barry, Alamari, and Zuccarelli here. It looks like Alamari tried to go for the move around the outside, and now it looks like he's going to be chopped liver with Zuccarelli is going to try and look for a move on Alamari, had to back Av it there. That's not really a place where you expect to see too many overtakes, and I think that's really, I mean, this section of the track here, there's so much elevation change, it's so narrow, and there's so little runoff area if you make a mistake that I don't think you're going to see too many overtakes here. So throughout the back section of this track, I think we're going to see a lot of these drivers try and stay in a line and just try and wait for this section of the track to try and pull off some overtakes with the very long straightaways.
And here, back to Halliburton here, watching him negotiate that Shell Oil corner. Beautiful banking on that corner. You're powering out of it in second gear, trying to get on the throttle as early as possible to get a good run on this back straight. Halliburton really showing how it's done. 5-second gap now on a track that's producing, a minute 20 laps. He is beaten this Radical to death, and no one's going to touch him today, barring any serious error by him, which we really haven't seen. He's been driving very consistently.
Oh yeah, we've seen pretty much flawless driving from him so far this year. He's seemed cool as a cucumber throughout this season. Even in the interviews that we occasionally get here on these Radical broadcasts, he's just seemed calm, collected. He has his head on his shoulders, and he knows what to do on track. He just hits his marks, doesn't make any mistakes, and he's just out and out fast. Right now, you see that he's just at the fastest lap at a 119.707 there. And right now, just Kane Halliburton putting a smackdown on the field, putting the smackdown on the other two other drivers on the podium now, who are starting to drop back like a rock. But these drivers, they're still very close to each other. I think they might start battling here. I say that they're actually slightly farther apart than they were a couple laps ago. Even this time last lap, they were about 3/10 between them. So right now, I think these drivers are just, as I said a couple laps ago, they're trying to tick the laps down, get through this race, and make sure the other drivers behind them of Gonzaga and Woodward don't get involved in their battle.
Absolutely, and definitely for our viewers, you want to stick around for the interview. It is great to talk to Halliburton. He is about the chillest race car driver you'll hear from, definitely representing the island vibe, flying the Jamaican flag here today. And just another reminder, you don't have to be involved in a league to appear in this race on Apex Racing TV. We are broadcasting the top split of the Radical Challenge. So if you want to see yourself on the big screen and hear our sage commentary about your skills, come on out and join us anytime.
Yeah, you can definitely join us. You can definitely join us at Fridays at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I believe it's like 2100 UK time. I could be mistaken there. I've never gone to the UK, so I won't know the time there. You'd want to join us on the Fridays. You want to join us next Friday for the Laguna Seca round. That'll be round 5 of the year. Right now, we're seeing a battle here between Zuccarelli and Barry. This is a very close battle between these two drivers. Right now, Alamari is starting to pull away. He's kind of in a pack of his own right now. He's pulling away from these two, battling right now for the final position in the top 10. Very heated battles throughout this field. And we've seen this a lot. Drivers just, they want to grab every position they can. It's really for bragging rights for the most part. Like 10th place, it's like it's not the greatest position in the world, don't get me wrong, but these drivers are still trying to battle their hearts out, clawing for every position, and it just produces some awesome racing as we're seeing right now. These drivers with a couple laps to go, well, I say that about 7 laps to go, these drivers are going to try and battle and claw for every position available, and even for P10, these drivers are going to be battling hard.
Yeah, and we've seen some great dicing, as you said. Al Amri has benefited from Zuccarelli and Barry mixing it up here. He's now stretched out to over a second. They had been swapping positions and making some fantastic passes as the race has unfolded. But Al Amri taking advantage of the fight between these two, and he's starting to drive away. And again, Halliburton up front, 6 seconds ahead. Here we are with Blanco. He has pulled up a little bit of a gap on Friedrich. Friedrich had him down to 2 or 3 tenths a couple laps ago, and now has kind of settled into that 0.8, 0.9 range. Might be conserving his tires for a push at the end. We've determined that there are tire wear issues with these cars in these sprints, and have to keep an eye on that when we get in the later stages.
I couldn't agree with you more there. I think he is definitely trying to save up his stuff for a last lap assault here. I guess that's definitely what Friedrich is trying to do here, trying to grab second position from Blanco. Friedrich, he's been very just he's pretty much equal on pace with Blanco. He can keep up with him, and he can even be faster than Blanco. So right now, I think he's just trying to save up his stuff. He could have burnt up his tires, so we'll just have to see as this race enters its final stages whether or not he's just purposely sandbagging at this point, or whether or not he really used up his stuff earlier, trying to get the move done on Blanco in the early stages of this race, and right now he's just hanging on for dear life.
Oh my goodness, I'm looking at the timing tower. I'm seeing Barry and Zuccarelli again within a tenth. And here's another tight battle. It's Gordon Houge working his way past Martiner, looking on the outside of Druids. Doesn't pull that one off. Oh, well, looks like Houge came out of that one ahead.
Yeah, that was a move on Christensen there.
Yeah, yep.
That's a interesting battle of the other Nordic drivers there, racing both of them at Norway, and pretty clean racing we saw there. We haven't seen too many overtakes at that corner, and he managed to pull it off there. So props to him. These drivers battling for 13th. It just beats on the same drum I was being a couple laps ago about had these drivers, even for battling for 13th and 14th, these drivers are still battling hard. This is another battle. There's a very heated battle between these drivers. Zuccarelli gained a lot of time there, really got very close to the back bumper there of James Barry, currently running in the 10th position. These drivers are going to be battling really hard, but right now Zuccarelli, it looks like he is trying to push. He is trying to give that Radical SR10 everything it's got at this point. I think he's going to cook his tires, so if he doesn't get the move done here in a couple laps, I think he might be in trouble.
Yeah, Zuccarelli definitely flogging here. What's his gap now? Looks like it's about 3/10. Haven't really seen anybody get close enough to strike here, so that draft really might not be working as much as I anticipated, even on that long back straight. But the gap way down here, we've seen a couple drivers poke their nose in at Old Hall at the bottom of the hill. We'll see if Zuccarelli wants to give that a try. He's certainly close enough. And as you see, Barry trying to cover the inside to prevent that. Zuccarelli looking outside now and can't quite get it done.
I think maybe just poking a wheel down the inside in that section of the track, that could just be mental games, trying to screw the other driver ahead of you like a cat playing with a mouse before he eats it. So we definitely see in these very short races how we see some mental games here from time to time. I think I was going to mention this point when we were following the Blanco and Friedrich battle a couple laps ago, how mental games can play a bit of a role here as we're seeing the other battle continue here. Very close. It looked like he was going to try and go around the outside, going through that corner, going into the other shell corner here. It looks like Zuccarelli is not going to be close enough to Barry to get the move done for the final top 10 spot, but still plenty to play for here. Try saying that 5 times fast. We're only on lap 14 of 18 in this race. We've still got a little bit to go. Very short track, though, so 4 laps around the Nordisch Life. That was our whole race. 4 laps to go around here. We're in the final stages, and right now Zuccarelli is looking for any way to get past Barry. Barry is driving that thing like it's the widest Radical SR10 on the planet right now, so he is doing a very good job defending Zuccarelli. Zuccarelli is pushing as hard as he can. We see him going, he is giving 110% here. He's going to try and look around the outside at the final corner like he did last time, but those drivers are very close. There's contact between the two of them, and Zuccarelli actually manages to get the position. He's slowing up, might have gone a slow down there, or just felt like a sportsman to try and give the position back to Barry. That was very close between those two. That was contact between those two, and that was very close to ending in disaster for the both of them.
Yeah, I'm going to give Zuccarelli the gentleman's trophy there. Little contact, nothing too egregious, but I think Zuccarelli probably felt it was a dirty pass and let Barry back by so they can have another crack at it down the road. And great driving and great sportsmanship by both of those two.
If we did give that any awards, he would definitely get the sportsmanship award for a move like that. That is a very gentleman act there. Right now we're seeing a gentleman's battle here between Woodward and Kirkopalis. Right now these drivers are very close between each other. Kirkopalis had a pretty bad run going through that corner there, so he lost a bit of ground to the back of Woodward, but right now this is a very close battle. We've got battles all up and down the field, including the battle for the second place position between Blanco and Frederick that we are following right now. We saw Frederick, he dropped back to about a second behind Blanco, then he started catching up. We're going to get the times here in a little bit as they cross the line, pretty much identical between the two of them. So right now there's a very close battle between these two drivers, just trying to just wait for another driver to make a mistake. Friedrich is going to try and push Blanco into a mistake, and Blanco is going to try and hold on to that position with dear life in the final stages of this race. This is going to be a very heated battle.
Yeah, absolutely. And watch this exit here out of Shell. It's so critical. You have to show a little bit of patience, put the hammer down as early as possible to get a good launch out of this, out of that second gear hairpin, get a run down the back straight. And they look pretty even on that exit. I don't see the gap really closing down much. And Blanco is going to be safe this time. Only a couple laps left. Friedrich may have just resigned himself to be happy with P3.
I think Friedrich is still going to try and give it everything he has in the final stages of this race. Right now, we're getting back to the battle towards the end of the top 10 field. Right now, we have Barry and Zuccarelli still maintaining the position they've maintained for the past couple of laps here. Zuccarelli is still trying to use every trick in the book to get by Barry. He's got a very big slipstream. It looks like he might try and go for a move around the outside. That's going to be very bold. Barry blocks it off, though. That's very close to contact between those two drivers. We saw them make contact a couple laps ago. So this is still a very heated battle right now. It looks like maybe Zuccarelli might go for a move in the section of the track. No, he stays behind. He might go for a move in the final corner, though.
Yeah, we'll see something down here at Old Hall, I think, again. See if Barry covers the inside or wants to make Zuccarelli go the long way. Oh, nothing there. He might be saving it for the last lap.
Yeah, we might see a big game of cat and mouse, strategic cat and mouse between these two drivers, just trying to save up your stuff for last lap assault. Going for a move in the final corner, unless you have a drastically terrible run coming out of the final corner, there's really no way to counter that kind of move. So right now we're seeing the battle ignite between these two drivers here. That is Woodward and Kirkapallis. I had to take a deep breath there because I'm really out of breath with how exciting this racing has been so far. These two drivers are pretty close, all things considered. These drivers are very close. This is Blanco and Friedrich there. Friedrich, he's been stuck behind Blanco for all of this race. So right now it looks like he's really sick and tired of running that number 4 Radical in the 3rd position. So he's going to try and get past the number 2 car currently running in the 2nd position. This is going to be very heated stuff between these two drivers. We're on the final lap now. Kane Halliburton right now about a 9.5 second gap for him. He's been in control of this race all day, so unless something dramatic happens, he's going to take his 3rd victory of the season. The 3rd victory of the 3 races he's done with us so far this year, so very dominant drive from him. But right now we've got battles all throughout the field. We've got the battle between Blanco and Friedrich, between 2nd and 3rd, trying to get the 2nd position. Those drivers are very close, about 0.4 of a second between them. And then we have the battle towards the back end of the top 10 between Barry and Zuccarelli. Those drivers are going to be battling very hard. And we also have the battle between Woodward and Kirkapallis between 5th and 6th. So we've got some very heated battles throughout this field. But this is the one to watch, though. Blanco went wide. Ooh, that was very close. Frederick, I think he clipped the grass there a little bit, had a big moment coming out of that corner. Might have just tried to hit the gas a little too early, spun up the rear tires, and that's going to cost him drastically. That was Frederick's one shot from the looks of it, and it looks like that Frederick is going to maintain the 3rd position right now. We're back to the battle between Kirkapallis and Woodward right now. These drivers are very close. Kirkapallis is going to look for the move around the outside of Woodward. He has to bail out of it. Nearly goes into the grass there from the understeer there. Just catastrophic understeer if you go wide in that section of the track. I would know from experience from shoving AI into that part of the track. And then right now we have the battle between 10th and 11th as Zuccarelli trying to get the move done on Barry. He is very close. He's the closest he's been so far. That is very close between those two drivers. Barry manages to hold on to the position. So if Zuccarelli, unless he goes for a drastic move in the final few corners, that's going to be P10 there from Barry. That's going to be a very close battle. Halliburton won, if you couldn't tell. That was probably a given even like halfway through this race, but right now it's the battle between 10th and 11th, and it looks like Barry is going to hold on to the final top 10 position. That was a very spirited battle between those two drivers. They made contact a bit earlier in the race, and Zuccarelli, he would have had a top 10 if he didn't let him by. That's a very sportsman move that he pulled, but also it did cost him a top 10 finish. So mixed emotions there. I'm sure he feels like he did the right thing, and I would have to agree with him. I think with the contact that they had, I'd feel a bit dirty if I inherited a top 10 after contact like that, but that was a very dramatic finish. Halliburton wins, Blanco in 2nd, Frederick in 3rd, and a very interesting race that we just had.
Absolutely. My goodness. Hopefully we can go back and take another peek at that last lap action in Shell between Blanco and Friedrich. We saw Blanco washing out there, overcooked the entry, opened the door for Friedrich, and having been there, when you see a mistake in front of you, that door opens, the adrenaline spikes, and he rolled on the throttle a little early, as Ron said, could not get the power down, and Blanco got away with the mistake, that Friedrich had been waiting for all race. Wow, what a finish.
That was absolutely awesome. Even though we had a driver win by 10 seconds, that was still a fantastic race. As we've seen from this series, we expected at this point a lot more participation than we had last season, which is fantastic. We're going to get a replay of the other battle here. Thank you, Joshua, our our producer here is going to get us a replay of that battle between Blanco and Friedrich. This is very close between these two drivers. Very heated battle here, very clean battle though. You got to appreciate the cleanness in that field, in this field altogether. I'm really stuttering on my words. That's what this series does for you. Sometimes it just leaves you at a loss for words. So right now we're seeing Blanco. He is getting very loose coming out of some of these corners. He is trying everything he has. He is using up all of his stuff. And we're going to see
the shell here. Yeah, you're going to see Blanco wash out a little here, leave the inside open. Friedrich rolling on the throttle. We might not have got the right lap there. Well, in any event, it was pretty epic there.
Still very close with those drivers. So you can see, just looking at that replay, you could see how Blanco was going. He was very loose towards the end of that. He used up all of his stuff, but he still manages to hold on to the second position. Here's the results from tonight. We have Kane Halliburton taking a pretty dominant win, led all the laps, got the pole. He was the fastest car on track, no question, throughout this race. He takes a victory with Rafael Blanco and Andreas Friedrich, a very close second and third. Jorge Gonzaga had a pretty quiet race, all things considered. He ends up in fourth, with Woodward and Kirkapallis in fifth and sixth. Those two were involved in a battle towards the end of the race. We have Bjorklund in seventh. He started up towards the front, so he had a very dramatic start by his standards, and he drops down to 7th as a result. Tough break for him. We have Frankie Dixon in 8th, had a very quiet race. Abdul Amari, he didn't have a very quiet race. He was involved in that battle towards the middle part of this race, I would have to say. He definitely had some dramatic moments throughout this race. James Berry definitely had some dramatic moments. He was off the track on the grass at some point. I was also involved in that battle with Zuccarelli. Those two end up in 10th and 11th. We have Oscar Martin in 12th, Gordon Haug in 13th. We have Glenn Christensen in 14th, Vranek in 15th. We have Semperez in 16th, Merchant in 17th. We have Christopher Yonkis in the 18th position. Some of these drivers did not finish. I believe the last of our finishers was Daniel Semperez in 16th position. So very, very dramatic race. We're going to get the final finishers here. Well, they really weren't finishers. They had issues early on and end up over 10 laps down. So that's Samir Kadadora in 19th, and then we have James Ebram, who had an issue that we did not see. He is in 20th. He only completed one lap. So, JR, that was a very dramatic race that we just had tonight. Very dramatic racing that we've had all season long, but still just action-packed from start to finish.
Oh, man, that was fantastic. And I got to say, you got to hand it to these drivers. If you have not driven a Radical at all, or particularly if you have not driven it on this track, to start from the standing start on cold tires forward, we saw some very, very clean racing. It is very tough to hustle this 500 horsepower Radical around this track. No ABS, no traction control, and the incredible camber changes, hills, blind corners, and the incredible challenges represented by Oulton. Fantastic job by everyone. Really tremendous racing, as we've come to expect.
It's kind of hard to compare the two tracks because they're just complete polar opposites, all things considered, but I don't know, I think the style of racing that we saw this evening was somewhat similar to the Nordschleife. It was kind of just waiting for a driver to make a mistake ahead of you because there's not really too many chances to get an overtake. This was nearly a chance for Friedrich to overtake. We're going to get a replay of the other last lap shenanigans there between those two. Friedrich got the big snap there. If he didn't have that snap, if he didn't get on the power too early coming out of that shell hairpin, that probably would have been second for him, but he has to end up in the third position tonight. That was a very dramatic moment that we saw with those drivers. Blanco is probably very happy that those two managed to stay in the positions they were after that very dramatic moment we saw with those two there.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I mentioned this before, but if you want to join us on Apex Racing TV, first of all, subscribe to Apex Racing TV. You can take in some of our many other broadcasts. We broadcast every possible discipline here in iRacing. And, put in some time in these radicals, get your speed up, get yourself into the top split, and you can join our weekly broadcast, as Ron mentioned. That's 2100 GMT. I believe it's 5 o'clock on the East Coast. It's 2 p.m. here on the left coast of the U.S. where I am. And definitely come join us. We're having a great time here with these radicals, and these drivers are having a blast as well. You should be out there.
4 races into the season now. It's already been a fantastic start, and as JR said, you can join us if you want to join us for round 5 of the season for these broadcasts that we do of Top Split for the Radical Racing Challenge on the iRacing service. You can join us at the times that JR said for the round 5 of the season at Laguna Seca next week. I'm personally looking forward to that race. Laguna Seca has always been an interesting track for me. It's always been a fun track, and I think we might see a couple sends going into the corkscrew.
We absolutely will. Laguna Seca is extremely well suited to these radicals, which really sort of embody racing from a bygone era, and we're going to see some outstanding driving at Laguna next week, as we have the previous 4. So I'm looking forward to it.
What I like about the schedule that we have this year, though, is that we have a lot of drivers' tracks where it's just really challenging for these drivers to keep it on the road. It shows off the driver skill fantastically, and I really like having challenging races for these drivers. I could say that as a broadcaster. If I was a driver, I'd probably say, yeah, let's run at Daytona, when you could just keep it wide open the whole time and run on the tri-oval where you don't really have to put in too much effort. But as a broadcaster, I like seeing these races at these somewhat challenging tracks. Certainly, they put on some fantastic racing, as we've seen the first 4 races of this year. We've got 12 races in this season. We've still got a bunch of racing action left to go, and we've got a bunch of racing action coming up this upcoming weekend here on Apex Racing TV. We've got the broadcast for Formula 3.5 at Silverstone. That'll be tomorrow that'll be on July the 8th, and then we also have the Weekend Warriors series, 2 broadcasts for Weekend Warriors. Both of those series will be running at Phillip Island on Sunday the 9th, so I hope you can join us for those broadcasts, but it looks like we will not be getting any interviews from these drivers. It's a tough break. I always like hearing from the drivers. I think it's fantastic to get a just kind of like a snapshot to see what these drivers are thinking. A lot of the times we've had interviews from Kane Halliburton where he's just been cool as a cucumber. He's always keeps a level head in these races, and it's just like he went on like a Sunday drive a lot of the times in the series, even though he's pushing this thing to the absolute limit. In the interviews after the fact, he's just calm as a cucumber. It's always great to see.
Yeah, absolutely. And drivers, pop into our Apex Racing TV Discord channel. We would love to speak with you. I would sure like to hear what was in Blanco's head when he went wide on the last lap on Shell there and saw Friedrich licking his chops behind him. What a moment that was for him.
I could imagine Blanco was a roller coaster of emotions in that just small little 3-second segment of this 20-minute long race. So he definitely had a roller coaster of emotions going in there, kind of feeling like a sense of regret because he went wide, and then seeing Friedrich have that big moment coming out of the corner. I'm sure he was probably delighted knowing that unless something major happened, he was going to hold on to the second position, as we saw him take the second position tonight. So we don't have any reviews, but certainly not the end of the action here in this series. We've got 8 more races to go. We've got the next broadcast for this series same time next week at Laguna Seca. That'll be a very interesting race, and I'm looking forward to it personally. So that's going to do it for tonight. For myself, Ron Mullins, J.R. Gregory joining me in the commentary booth, and Joshua Wilkie doing a fantastic job in the production hauler, I say farewell and have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.